Good. Now we're going back to learning about the Holy Temple. True, we should be learning doing Pirkei Avot, and we will do Pirkei Avot, but it's very important that we should learn about the Holy Temple, because first of all, that's the manifestation of the goal of Judaism, namely a place in this physical world where the essence of God is revealed. And according to the Rambam, according to Maimonides, the main thing of the Holy Temple was the altar. The altar. This is a picture of the altar. See over here. Yeah. So we're going to learn a little bit about this. This was on the Temple Mount. A lot of these pictures are not really that accurate. You know, I guess they never really sort of, the people that drew the pictures are more artists than they were, you know, they're more out for art than they were for accuracy, but that's okay. In general, you get the general picture of what's going on. This is what the temple looked like, right? Something like that. It was more put over to the side, but this is generally how it looked. And now the big question is where is the exact place of the temple? Where should it be? The main problem of this whole thing is where is the altar? Where is the altar? The altar has to be in exactly the right place. And we're going to see that how do we know where the right place is? It's going to have to come a prophet and tell us. But like we said yesterday, this is the general layout of the Holy Temple. This is like the first temple. Picture the first temple. So in general, this is how it looked. You came in from this side. This was the east side. Usually most synagogues today, you come in from the opposite side. The east is where the ark is. But in the Holy Temple, it wasn't that way. In the Holy Temple, the ark, which that's here, that's where the tablets was in the west. So come on, let's see. I'm going to press on this. Let's see if it. Did it do anything? Maybe here. Yeah. A lot of times you press on this thing and everything just disappears. Well, that was sort of what happened. Yeah. Okay, that's sort of what happened. Here we see a picture. All right. See, they have these very strange. Okay, let's go. Not to get into this too much. We were doing okay before we started to look for. Oh. There we go. Okay. So here we have a picture, a general picture. Tried to make it bigger, but it's not important. You would come in from this side. This is the east. Through this courtyard. We went through this yesterday. There were stairs here, some stairs. Then there were stairs. And then here was the altar. Now, the altar was pretty big, and it had this ramp that went up to the altar. And here was like a laver, a thing that the Kohanim would wash their hands and their feet from it. We'll go more into the details. Then they would go into this thing. This was called the ulam. Then they would go into the holy, and then the holy of holies. In the holy over here was the candelabra, the 12 loaves of bread. It's called face bread, lechem panim. And here there was a golden altar, a small golden altar that they burn incense on every day. And this room, of course, the holy priest would go in just once a year. Okay, so that's the general layout of the tabernacle in the desert, right? It had this sort of outer courtyard. There was the altar, and the holy and the holy of holies. In the desert, there wasn't this entrance. It was just, you know, the roof was covered over by skins. Okay, interestingly enough, the Holy Temple was on levels. You would go in, it wasn't really, each level was straight, but in order to get to each one, you had to go upstairs. That would get from one level to the other. There were stairs that went in. See, like over here, these were stairs that went up. And there were more stairs over here, a few stairs. Okay. Good. let's have a look, a few, some interesting laws of the Holy Temple. Here. Here we go. All right, these are the laws from the Maimonides. These are laws from Maimonides. Let's see, make it bigger. Oh. So you don't build it in the nighttime. We did some of these laws yesterday. Okay, the altar has to be done from stones, and but it's hollow and it's filled. It has to be joined to the ground, not to build it on sort of on sort of pillars or anything like that. It has to be joined to the ground. They're going to join to the ground. Let's go a little further over here. The stones, the special stones. The altar does not have steps going on it. It must have a ramp. You don't make it has to have a ramp, like it says, Lo ta'alev malot al mizbechi. It has to be, you go up on a ramp. Why can't this work? Something must be wrong here. 1 second. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. This is a sign that something is wrong. Yeah. You don't make steps. Just see, sometimes you can record on this and not press the right button and nothing gets recorded, which is frustrating. And there's enough frustrations in this world to add on to this frustration. Here we go. So it, but there has to be like a ramp that goes up, right? Remember we saw that picture here? Where the picture, is there a picture? No, picture. Where did we have a picture of the ramp? Where is the picture of the ramp? Where is the picture of the ramp? Anyway, here it is. There's a ramp that goes up. This is, see, you're coming in this way. Coming in this way, and there's a ramp here. See, going up, this is the altar. There's a ramp that went up on the altar. Good. It's called, the ramp is called the kevish. The kevish. You go up on this kevish to there was a little tiny space between this kevish and the altar. Okay. Now we have the menorah. Oh, the menorah, the candelabra, right? That stood on the ground that had seven branches that came out. Right, 7 branches. Maybe we have a picture of it here. Picture. Yes. 1 moment. Here. See, menorah. It was not rounded though. There was absolutely no basis, according to any opinion, that it was rounded, except for Titus. But the Rashi and the Rambam, they all say that it was straight. I think we have a picture of it straight over here. There was a picture over here, but no. All right. Anyway, it was straight. That's the menorah. The kalim. There was the table where the showbread was, face bread. The golden altar. We said you don't make them except from elamina matechet. They have to be made from metal. The covering of them was metal. If you in the temple, if you make them from wood or anything like that, then it's no good. In the tabernacle, they were made from atzishitim, but in the temple, not. The tabernacle that was in the desert, it was made from this shittim wood and it was covered over. But in the temple, not. It was all made from metal. So it says this menorah and all these other vessels, if the Jewish people were poor, that you could make it even from tin. If they were rich, they could make everything from gold. even all the rakes and all the other things, they could make them all for gold if they wanted to. But it has to be made for the sake of holiness. Okay, it has to be made. You can't just take something from your kitchen and say, okay, I'll use this golden vessel my grandma gave me. I'll use this for the holy temple. You can't do that. It has to be made for the temple, used in the temple. Okay, next, let's learn a little bit here. That's chapter 1 of the Maimonides. Here, let's do a little bit of chapter 2. The altar. Now, pretty much everything was measured from where the altar is. This altar, here, let's see the picture. We have a picture over here of the altar. Where it is here. This is a picture of the altar, right? We have a, see my pointer. Oh. Yes, why not? 1 minute. This sort of signals to me that something over here is wrong. Because usually this pointer points. No, something's wrong. Okay. Let's see if this works. Dove. Looks like I'm not going to get luck with this thing. I'm very sorry. No, doesn't work on Zoom. Here we go. Oh, good. Here we have a picture of the altar. Do we have a picture of the altar? Anyway. All right, here's a picture. Sorry. All right, anyway, over here was the altar. That's where the altar was. Right? The altar was over here in front of the thing. Why they don't want to have the picture of it? Eineni Yodea. Here, see, this is supposed to be the altar here. Disappointment. Okay, very inaccurate picture of the altar. Very, very inaccurate picture. But anyways, there was a ramp going up to it. Now, this altar, where it was in the temple, had to be very, very exact. The altar had to be put in a place that was very, very exact. How do they know which place this was? So the answer is like this here. Oh, here, now all of a sudden we have the pictures. Here is where the altar was, right here. Yes. But I think I have lost. Yes. Yes, here we go. Good. The Mizbeach, the altar. Makomo, its place, Mekuvan, the altar is very, very exact. Ein Mishanimoto, you can never change it, its place forever. Like it says, V'zeh Mizbach La'olah, Israel, this is the offering altar for the Jews. And the Mikdash Ne'akad Yisrael, in the holy temple, in this place where the altar was, in the holy temple, the place where the altar was, this is the place, exactly the place where Abraham took Isaac to sacrifice him. Like it says, Lech Lecho Eretz HaMoriah. The place of the temple was on a place called Eretz HaMoriah. And it says by King Solomon, Vayiven at the Bahar HaMoriah, in the Har HaMoriah, the mountain of Moriah. This is the same mountain that Abraham took his son Isaac to sacrifice him on. Law number 2. Mesoret biyad akol. This is given over from generation to generation, that the place where King David and King Solomon built the altar, the Goren Arovna, in a place called Goren Arovna, that's what they bought it from, this place called Arovna. Who is a Mokum? This is exactly the place, Shabana Avram, that Abraham built his altar and to sacrifice Yitzchak. That's what we just said. And it's the same place that Noah, after the flood, he was the only person left in the world, except for his wife and his children. He came out from the ark. It said that he made an altar there and he offered up offerings, and God was pleased. This is the same place where previously, before the flood, 1,000 years before the flood, where Cain killed Hevel. Right? He created Cain and Hevel. Remember, it says that Cain, he sacrificed the linen, and then Hevel brought his animals, sacrificed them on, and Cain got jealous. But Boikriv Adam, this is the place where earlier than that, previously, the first man sacrificed his sacrifices when he was created. And even more, it says that from that place where the altar is, that's where Adam was created from. Like the rabbis say, first man was created from the place where his forgiveness comes from. Now the measurements, if you know exactly where the altar is, then you know where to build the holy temple, and people don't know where it is. So the measurements of the altar are very, very exact, and its form is passed down from person to person. The altar that was built in the second temple, this is something like the altar that's going to be built in the third temple, Atid Libanot. Ha'ein lo hosif al midoto. You cannot add on the measures. You can't detract from the measures. Okay, how do you know where the place is? How are you supposed to know? It says when the Jews built the first temple, there was no problem. It was built by King Solomon. He was the wisest man in the world. He had prophecy, and it was told exactly where he should build it. God agreed. What about the second temple? The second temple, the Jews came back from exile, from Babylon. It says 3 prophets came together with the Jews from Babylon, right? The Jews came from Babylon with Nehemiah, and Ezra came. That was the men of the Great Assembly. That was the time of Mordechai and the whole story of Purim. That's what happened. 3 prophets came up with the Jews from Babylon. One of them testified on exactly the place where the altar was. God told him. One of them testified on the exact measurements. And one of them testified, and in other words, he got the okay from God that you can sacrifice on this altar all of the sacrifice. And you can sacrifice on this altar even though there is no holy temple. But if you would know where the place of the altar was, which we don't, you could sacrifice it even if there is doesn't depend on the holy temple. Of course, there has to be a certain level of purity and such. Okay, how high is it? This is the last one. The altar that Moses made, and that was in the tabernacle, and that King Solomon made in the first temple. That was the tabernacle, the first temple. Vasu b'nei Agola, and those who came from exile from Babylon, the second temple. Va'atid lasot, and the third temple that's going to be built. Kulam, all of them are 10 amos high. 10 amos. An amos is like 1.5 feet. So they're all, let's say, 15 feet high. Call echad, each one. That's what it says. It's 3 amos high. This is talking about just the top part of it. And the altar that was made by the in the second temple, and then the one that's going to be made in the third temple, the length and the width is going to be 10 amos high, but it's going to be 32 amos by 32 amos. The measurement of it is width and length is going to be 32 by 32, which means like basically, 45, 50 feet by 50 feet, something like that, which is pretty big. And we'll talk about this more, God willing, next week. Meanwhile, hope to see you all tomorrow, Friday, 8:15, where we'll finish this beautiful speech of the Rebbe that we had, the beautiful essay, the Sikha of the Lubavitcher Rebbe about the connection between this prophecy of Jeremiah with the staff and almonds to our situation today and how we can sweeten up the world with Moshiach. Now, hope to see you all. Shalom uvracha. Have a good day.